Why is it that some people come into our lives and shift everything? Our thoughts, our path, even our sense of self, while others merely pass through, leaving no mark. How do you know when someone is not just another face in the crowd, but a force of transformation? This video reveals the 4 psychological signs that you're about to meet someone who will completely alter the trajectory of your life, for better or worse. Sign number 13, before 2 leaves cross in a way that forever alters their direction, the psyche begins to stir. Not with loud proclamations or obvious signs, but with subtle echoes. Echoes that seem meaningless to the rational mind, but profound to the intuitive soul. This is the realm where synchronicity operates, that mysterious order that exists beneath what we call chance. It is here that the unconscious communicates with reality, producing meaningful coincidences that are too precise to ignore yet too elusive to explain. When you are on the brink of meeting someone who will change everything, the fabric of your life subtly starts to rearrange itself. You begin to notice a series of unconnected events that seem to speak the same language. You think of a person you haven't seen in years, and they suddenly appear. You pick up a random book, and within its pages is a passage that directly reflects your current emotional state. You glance at the clock repeatedly at the same minute every day. These may seem trivial to the conscious mind, but to the deeper layers of the psyche, they are signals. Archetypal pulses pushing through the veil of routine to signal an approaching transformation. These moments are the psyche's attempt to create a bridge between the inner and outer worlds. What makes synchronicity distinct is that it cannot be forced. It emerges spontaneously when something important is nearing consciousness, especially when the ego is no longer fully in control. You may find that you start encountering the same symbols repeatedly. For example, an animal that appears in your dreams now begins to appear in waking life, on billboards, in music, or overheard in casual conversations. The environment itself becomes a mirror for your inner readiness. It is not the person who arrives first. It is the pattern. The pattern is a prelude, a ritual before the arrival of someone who will carry a deeper message. Many mistake these moments as anomalies or coincidences, dismissing them with a wave of logic. But to those attuned to the symbolic nature of reality, they signal something precise. A convergence is about to take place. The psyche, after all, is not bound by linear time. It often knows what's approaching long before the conscious self can make sense of it. That is why synchronicity can feel both predictive and personal. It is as though life is whispering, "Pay attention. Something is being aligned." The emotional weight of these coincidences also increases. A song that comes on the radio evokes a feeling you haven't felt in years, and you can't understand why. A stranger's words linger in your mind long after they're spoken. Objects, names, or even scents begin to carry an aura of familiarity, as though they're fragments of a larger story you haven't lived yet. These are not merely events. They are psychological activations. They stir the unconscious, preparing it to open to the energy of a person who will act as a catalyst. What is critical to understand is that synchronicity does not predict pleasure or comfort. Often, the person you are about to meet will not soothe you, rather provoke you. Their presence might feel electric, unsettling, even fated. And the synchronicities beforehand do not promise safety. They promise significance. The meaning you extract from them is dependent on your own psychic maturity. If you are asleep, you will miss the thread. But if you are awake, you will see it being woven in real time. Jung believed that synchronicity was one of the ways the collective unconscious made contact with the individual. When 2 souls are meant to engage in a transformative encounter, something in the shared unconscious field between them activates. It bends events toward each other, not through force, but through resonance. You may be led to a specific location without knowing why. You may feel a sudden compulsion to reach out, to travel, to change course. It is not logic that drives you. It is the invisible hand of meaning pulling you into position. As synchronicities grow more intense, you begin to feel that reality itself is watching you, or speaking to you in code. You do not feel like a passive observer of life anymore. You feel like a participant in a myth being written in real time. And that myth is not random. It is archetypal. It is preparing you for the arrival of someone who carries an aspect of your own psyche that has been hidden from view. You may not recognize them when they appear, but the signs, the echoes, they began long before the meeting. They were your warning, your preparation, your invitation into the deeper unfolding of your fate. Sign number 20. There are moments in life when the familiar begins to dissolve. Not because of an external catastrophe, but because of an internal shift so profound that the world itself appears slightly out of alignment. The people you once found comfort in now seem distant. The habits that once structured your days begin to feel hollow. Even your name, your personality, your roles, they start to seem like garments that no longer fit. This quiet unraveling, often mistaken for confusion or depression, is in fact the psyche's preparation for the arrival of something or someone that will act as a mirror and a catalyst. Before we meet the person who changes everything, we are often first introduced to a new version of ourselves, one that emerges only through fragmentation. This disruption is not something that can be traced to a logical cause. It does not announce itself with clarity. Rather, it creeps in like a fog. You may wake up and find your ambitions empty, your relationships weightless, your beliefs under quiet attack. It's not that you suddenly dislike your life. It's that your soul begins to grow restless within it. This is the moment when the ego, your constructed identity, begins to lose its grip. It can no longer maintain the illusion of control because something deeper is trying to surface. The psyche has many layers. What we call the self is often just the tip of a far greater, darker, more complex structure hidden beneath our conscious awareness. When this deeper self senses that a profound transformation is near, particularly through an impending encounter, it begins to shake the foundations of the false persona you have lived by. You are not losing yourself, you are shedding yourself. The identity that begins to dissolve is not the essence of who you are, but a mask you wore for the sake of safety, conformity, or survival. When that mask begins to crack, there is often fear, but there is also space for something or someone to enter. What is particularly disorienting is that this shift does not follow a linear path. One moment you feel like you are awakening into clarity. The next, you are overwhelmed by doubt. This back and forth rhythm mirrors the dance of opposites within the psyche. It is the tension between who you were and who you are becoming. And that tension is the fertile ground upon which deep human connection is born. You are not meant to be fully formed when you meet this person. In fact, it is precisely in your undoing that the relationship finds its root. Often, during this phase, individuals experience a form of symbolic death. They may find themselves withdrawing from others, not out of bitterness but out of instinct. They may feel a deep urge to be alone, to question, to grieve something they can't name. This grief is the soul's way of mourning the expiration of an old self. And just beneath that mourning lies the quiet anticipation of what's coming, though the conscious mind may not know it yet. In truth, the psyche is preparing to make room for an encounter that will challenge everything it previously held as true. This kind of meeting is not ordinary. The person who is about to enter your life will not simply entertain you, comfort you, or affirm you. They will provoke something much deeper. Their presence will call forth your unconscious contents, your wounds, your projections, your hidden longings. And the only way the psyche can allow for such an encounter is by first loosening its current structure. This is why the disruption happens before the meeting. It is not chaos. It is architecture being rewritten from the inside. Your thoughts may become more abstract, more philosophical, more searching. You may find yourself drawn to unfamiliar ideas, ancient symbols, strange metaphors. This is not a descent into madness. It is the movement of the archetypes stirring within you. The encounter you are being prepared for is not merely romantic or social. It is psychological. It is archetypal. And the person who is coming is not just a person. They are a carrier of something the unconscious has long been waiting to confront. There is also often a loss of interest in things that once brought certainty. You may look at your achievements and feel a quiet sense of irrelevance. The validation you once sought begins to lose its appeal. Even your goals, your routines, your desires, everything begins to seem suspiciously external. This is because the inner world is taking precedence. And it does so because it knows that an outer event, an outer person, is approaching who will speak directly to that inner reality. In Jungian psychology, Such moments mark the beginning of individuation, the process by which a person begins to integrate the unconscious into consciousness. Individuation rarely begins with joy. It begins with disintegration. The identity, carefully built over decades, begins to fall apart, not because it was wrong, but because it has served its purpose. You are being emptied so that you may be filled again. You are being unmade so that you may finally meet someone not from the level of ego, but from the level of soul. And the disruption you feel is not a sign of failure. It is the signature of transformation in motion. Sign number 30A: long before life speaks in facts, it speaks in symbols. And nowhere do these symbols emerge more clearly than in dreams. The dream is the royal road to the unconscious, and when a great change approaches, especially the meeting of a person who will transform us, the unconscious does not remain silent. It stirs, it warns, prepares. It speaks in the language it knows best, images that confuse the rational mind but carry profound meaning for the soul. When you are about to meet someone who will change everything, your dreams begin to shift. They gain weight, color, emotion, and strangeness. They become vivid, unforgettable. You wake not with a fleeting memory, but with the feeling that something sacred has taken place during the night. The unconscious is not bound by linear time. It does not wait for events to occur in waking life. Instead, it anticipates, it orients, it projects. The meeting of a person who will alter your psychological structure is not a casual event. It is archetypal. Such meetings are rare, and when they are near, the unconscious begins to prepare the individual. Dreams become filled with figures that you do not recognize, but feel intimately connected to. Faces of strangers appear with eyes that seem to speak directly to your hidden longings. Sometimes they say nothing. Sometimes they speak in riddles or metaphors. But always, they leave a mark. Like a fingerprint on the inner mirror, these dream figures are not random creations. They are psychological projections, yes, but they are also messengers. They may appear as lovers, guides, children, animals, or even threatening shadows. And each of these figures carries an energy that is asking to be integrated. When you are nearing an encounter with someone who will awaken this energy in waking life, the unconscious rehearses it first in dream time. It is as if the psyche must prepare the terrain, clear the emotional debris, and create the symbolic readiness for the transformational meeting to occur. The emotional tone of these dreams is different from normal. They are not just strange, they are numinous. You feel during the dream, or upon waking, that what you experienced was significant. It might even feel as if the dream were more real than life itself. This is because the dream is touching the archetypal layer of your psyche, where time collapses and essence reveals itself. You may dream of a journey, a home you've never been to, a figure you follow through a forest, a reunion with someone you've never met. These are not meaningless fantasies. They are symbols of the inner transformation beginning to take shape. Often, these dreams contain signs of union or conflict. You may dream of intense eye contact with a stranger, or a long-lost friend embracing you, or of being pursued, challenged, kissed, or even destroyed by an unknown figure. These emotional charges are not to be dismissed. They are psychic rehearsals of what will later take place in real time, when the person arrives who will carry this unconscious content into the outer world. That is the deeper mystery of human connection. It is not just psychological, it is archetypal. We do not fall in love only with people, fall into the projection of our soul's hidden material onto a person who embodies it. And the dreams are the first step in unveiling that material. At times, these dreams may carry warnings. The unconscious does not flatter the ego. It tells the truth, whether we are ready for it or not. You may dream of destruction, fire, drowning, falling, symbols of ego collapse. These are not to be feared. They are to be understood. They signal that the structure of who you thought you were is being burned down to make space for someone who will demand a new self to emerge. You cannot meet the person who changes everything while clinging to the person you have always been. And so the unconscious must shake the structure from the inside, using dreams as the earthquake. The landscape of these dreams is also telling. You may find yourself in ancient cities, abandoned houses, surreal landscapes, deep waters, or starless skies. These environments are metaphors for the condition of your inner world. A collapsing house may represent your outdated identity. A forest may signify the unknown self. A staircase may reflect your movement between levels of consciousness. And always, somewhere in that environment, there is the presence of another. They might be at the edge of your vision, behind a door you cannot open, or walking just ahead of you. You may not see their face, but you feel their presence, and that feeling lingers, even as the dream ends. The unconscious has no concern for convenience. It does not care for your calendar or your conscious readiness. When it is time for transformation, it acts. And the dream is its most intimate stage, when someone is approaching your life who will act as a vessel for that transformation. The unconscious reaches out through the dream world to meet them first. The figure you dream of may not be the person themselves, but an archetype they will awaken in you. It may be the anima, the animus, the shadow, or even the self. What matters is not the literal identity of the figure, but the psychic truth it delivers. The dream reveals what the waking world is not yet caught up to. It is the prophecy of the soul preparing to be changed. Sign number 4, seen at first, feels like coincidence. A number appears repeatedly. A name surfaces in multiple unrelated places. You think of someone, and they contact you. You open a book at random and find an exact sentence that mirrors your innermost thoughts. These are not accidents. They are not the idle tricks of a bored universe. When you are about to meet someone who will fundamentally alter your path, reality itself begins to bend in quiet, intelligent ways. You do not merely move through the world begins to move through you. And in this delicate dance, synchronicity becomes the language of destiny. Synchronicities are not mere chance occurrences. They are meaningful coincidences. Events that connect the inner world of the psyche with the outer world of matter. When your unconscious is preparing you for a life-altering encounter, it begins to externalize its messages through the environment. Suddenly, your inner turmoil, desires, or intuitions are mirrored by signs, symbols, and events in the world around you. The deeper the psychological shift, the more intense these coincidences become. The world becomes symbolic. It no longer feels passive. It becomes charged with meaning, as though some unseen intelligence were arranging things behind the scenes. These events carry a numinous quality, a sacred weight. You don't just see the repeated number. You feel it pressing on your consciousness. You don't just hear the name of the person you dreamt about. You feel as if the air around you tightens when it's spoken. These are not simple cause and effect patterns. They are causal connections emerging not from logic, but from the profound interplay between the personal unconscious and the collective unconscious. The synchronicity is a signal that your life is aligning with something greater than personal will. It is the self stepping in to orchestrate the encounter. This is not about superstition. The psyche, when sufficiently stirred, begins to constellate outward. When you are nearing a pivotal transformation, especially the entrance of a person who will play a key role in your individuation, the unconscious does not wait in silence. It breaks through the surface of everyday life. Objects, places, conversations, songs, overheard fragments, all become instruments through which the deeper message is delivered. You may notice symbols that previously meant nothing to you suddenly standing out. A white feather, a raven, an eclipse, a staircase. The more irrational the connection, the more meaningful it often is. Because meaning, in this context, is not generated by logic, but revealed through resonance. It is during these periods that the border between inner and outer life becomes permeable. You feel watched, guided, sometimes haunted by a presence that cannot be seen. Time stretches and contracts. You walk into a place for the first time and feel as though you've been there before. Déjà vu becomes common. Dreams and waking life start to echo one another. You may wake from a dream and find a detail from it waiting for you in reality. A location, a phrase, a person, an object. This is the unconscious stitching itself into the fabric of time. Synchronicity also has a way of testing your attention. It does not force itself upon you. It offers itself. You must be awake to receive it. This is why many people overlook the signs. They are looking with the eyes of reason rather than the eyes of soul. The person who is about to enter your life is already whispering their presence, not through words, but through alignment. You might meet them in a way that defies explanation. A last-minute change of plan, a misdialed number, a missed flight that leads you to a coffee shop where they're sitting. These events are not random. They are orchestrated by the psyche to ensure convergence. It's also common, during such periods, to experience synchronicities that involve mirrors of your own condition. You may hear a story, watch a film, or read a passage that reflects your own emotional state with eerie precision. This mirroring is not accidental. It is preparatory. The psyche is attuning you to the symbolic resonance you will feel when you meet this person in physical form. Their arrival will not feel new. It will feel remembered. As if you are meeting not someone new, but someone you had long forgotten, someone who has always existed in the architecture of your unconscious, waiting to take form. Such meetings are rare, but their effects are seismic, and the world knows this. The universe bends around their arrival. Time loosens. Space breathes. Signs gather like clouds before a storm. Synchronicities increase in both frequency and intensity, not to entertain you, but to awaken you. They are the footprints of fate walking just ahead. The more you notice them, the more aligned you become with the invisible path being carved out for you. You are not just being prepared to meet someone, you are being prepared to recognize them, not with your mind, but with your soul. Certainly, here is a Carl Jung-inspired conclusion for the entire script, staying true to the psychological depth and symbolic tone established throughout. And so, when the soul stirs, when the unconscious begins to speak in dreams, in symbols, in strange coincidences and inner shifts, it is never without reason. Something ancient within you is awakening, an instinct far deeper than logic, alerting you to the proximity of transformation. This is not merely about romance or companionship. It is about meeting the living embodiment of something you have long carried within, a force, a figure, someone who will not just walk beside you, but reshape the architecture of your being. Their arrival is not always comfortable. Often, it is disruptive. They challenge your patterns, unsettle your illusions, and draw forth parts of you that you had long buried. But it is in that disruption that true growth emerges. The self does not evolve through stillness, it evolves through encounter. And the person who changes everything is not the one who fits perfectly into your life, but the one who cracks it open. To meet such a person is to meet yourself anew. It is to see your dreams mirrored in another's eyes, to witness your shadows rise between conversations, and to feel something ancient move beneath the surface of daily life. When that moment comes, you will know, not through certainty, but through resonance, as if some forgotten part of you is finally remembering its way home. So listen to your dreams. Trust the strange timing. Follow the thread of meaning in your everyday life. Because when it's time, reality will not whisper, it will thunder, and everything in you will shift to make space for what or who is about to enter.